going to go over the stats. And I really do think that the stats are irrelevant because of the way this game was played. We were basically dominated by the defense when it came to our offensive line, and we couldn't generate anything. Derek Carr went 23 of 31 for 142 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Marshawn Lynch carried the ball 13 times for 45 yards, no touchdowns. He was averaging 3.5 yards a carry. Derek Carr, 4 times for 31 yards. That tells you what kind of game this was. Derek Carr was on his back foot all game long, man. He was having a run. Excuse me. Pop open my coffee here. Jalen Richard, 2 for 3 yards. No touchdowns. Averaging 1.5 yards a carry. Receiving, Jalen Richard, 7 receptions for 48 yards. We kept trying to dump off screen passes. You know what I mean? And they weren't working, but that one dump off down the middle that he threw to Richard, man, that dime that he threw, it actually did really well, but went for quite a few yards. It was he was targeted 8 times. Seth Roberts, who left the game, looked like he was damn near dead when he got laid out. 5 receptions for 31 yards, 6 targets. Martavis Bryant, 2 receptions for 18 yards. He was targeted 3 times. We also lost Amari Cooper this game. I needed that. Jared Cook was not a factor at all. Doug Martin had 1 reception for 8 yards. I mean, offensively, we couldn't generate anything. Derek Carr had 2 fumbles. That was due to our offensive line not being able to block. You got to give the guy at least 2 seconds. At least 2 seconds to be able to set and throw. I mean, it just... unbelievable. Darrell Worley had an interception. A 16-yard pick. He also had 2 passes defended. Okay, let's move on to defense. Leon Hall was our leading tackler. It looked like it was a 3-way tie in between Leon Hall, Darrell Worley, Fadal Brown. Darrell Worley actually had a tackle for a loss. Arden Key, man, stepped up. Arden Key was pressuring the quarterback. A few good plays there, and he got himself a sack. I mean, the defense, to be honest with you guys, man, the defense is playing exactly the way I expected, especially since you see the score. You know, 27-3. The only I was off by what? Touchdown and extra point, 2 extra points. It wasn't off by much. Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie had 2 tackles. Eric Harris had 2 tackles. Derek Johnson had 3. Markel Lee had 4 tackles, 1 assist. Our defense stayed on the field quite a while. Sean Melvin had a decent tackle. Our defensive line... Our interior defensive line is hurting. Matt McCrane, 1 of 2. Johnny Townsend, 3 punts, at 30.7 average. You know, I think we honestly need to go back and get Marquette King, especially since he's been cut. But, I mean, the stats really don't. The stats say everything here. I really wish. Let's go over here to team stats. Let's go look at that. This is a whole completely new different setup that NFL is doing now. Hopefully this comes up the way I'm expecting it to. All this is just basically a drive chart. So anyway, for some reason I can't find the team stats. I'm sorry about that. But I mean it's got to be in here somewhere, I would think. Anyway, I can tell you this though. that Russell Wilson went 17 of 23 for 222 yards. So we gave up 222 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. We had 1 interception. All right. We gave up a shit ton of rushing yards. Chris Carson, 14 carries for 59 yards. He was averaging 4.2 yards a carry. Rashad Penny was 9 carries for 43 yards. He was averaging 4.8 yards a carry. Mike Davis went 6 for 21 yards. He was averaging 3.5 yards a carry. And even Russell Wilson himself got involved with 6 rushes for 20 yards at 3.3 yards a carry. Tyler Lockett took an end around for one time for 7 yards. And I believe David Moore had 1 rush for 5 yards as well. Receiving, we gave up 91 yards receiving to Doug Baldwin, 47 to David Moore on 2 receptions. Rashad Penny was 2 for 27. Tyrone Swoops, 1 for 23. He was targeted 1 time. Tyler Lockett, 3 for 13. He was targeted 4 times. Brandon Marshall, I didn't even know he was still playing, but yep, 1 reception for 11 yards. The ex-Bronco had to get involved. Jerron Brown, 1 for 5 yards. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. And then Mike Davis, 1 for 5 yards. Their fumbles, Russell Wilson had 1, but I guess they recovered it. But that is basically what our defense gave up when you look at it. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. So here we are, final score. The Seattle Seahawks 27, the Oakland Raiders 3. Our offensive line did not show up today. Everybody on the offensive line, with the exception of Rodney Hudson and Gabe Jackson, are injured. We have not been able to produce any type of protection for Derek Carr. And it really showed that the referees were not on our side today. I saw very many late hits and roughing hits that were not flagged, even though that they did flag the Seattle Seahawks more than they flagged us today. There were key flags that did not come in. The helmet-to-helmet to Seth Roberts especially, that should have been called. These are hits that they are supposed to be looking out for, and they are not, at least when it comes to the Oakland Raiders anyway. Derek Carr also went down. Amari Cooper went down early as hell in the game on a helmet-to-helmet hit. As a matter of fact, I believe that was the helmet-to-helmet hit I was referring to. Seth Roberts got knocked the hell out, and I don't even know what the hell happened to him. It looked like he got spun around, but he was laid out there for a minute. But, I mean, you look at that, and that's 3 calls right there where we should have had an automatic first down and the ball where the spot of the foul was, and then the penalty added. But none of that happened. You know, I do appreciate the referees letting them play. But, I mean, all around, I mean, there is no excuse. We can't say anything for an excuse on the way this football team played. You know, the offensive line is really killing it, and they were killing it when they were in there, and, you know, when we had all of our starters and all these injuries. All of these injuries. I'm sorry about that. It's not really as good as I'd like it to be. Let me move it down here some. All right, yeah, there we go. So, I mean, you look at this here, and this is basically what I saw today. The line's going to get Derek Carr killed. Derek Carr didn't have great numbers today. No, he didn't. But he didn't throw an interception. He did try to make good decisions with the ball. He threw the ball away when he needed to. And a lot of the fans out there who were calling for Derek Carr's head, man, this was not Derek Carr's fault. And just like I've said most of the damn time, when it comes to this football team, it really comes upon scheme. And Derek Carr is not used to this scheme. I don't know if he ever will get it. I hope he will sooner or later, but right now, man, it's just not working. It's not working for him. And it's definitely not working for us because we're not winning. I mean, let's just be real. We're not winning, and a lot of us are really angry about it. But what are we paying all of this money for this offensive line, and we can't even generate what we need to generate when it comes to a decent pass blocking scheme to give this guy longer than 2 to 3 seconds to throw the football. I mean, regardless, they are doing things that I don't know about what you guys might think, but maybe with as many losses that we've already taken, that maybe this season is just a loss, and we need to go ahead and start A.J. McCarron. I mean, what else do we have to lose? We're 1-5. We're going into the bye week. We really need to see what we've got on this roster. And we haven't seen anything out of A.J. McCarron since we picked him up from Buffalo. So the state of the Raiders is obviously fairly easy to understand where we're going. The state of the Raiders, we should all be hitting the panic button. We can't buy a win right now. And to be honest with you, the referees gave us our only win of the season. Because that fumble that Derek Carr did back then when we played the Browns looked an awful lot like the fumble that he did today when the line gave up and he got nailed from behind and also had the ball stripped while he was being sacked. This team is in massive amounts of trouble when it comes to this season. Really, I have not watched any, besides a few of the YouTubers about the Raiders today, because I didn't want my opinion to be affected by anybody else's by maybe, agreeing with a lot of what they said too. So, forgive me if I sound belligerent. I just haven't really done a whole lot of research when it comes to looking around, besides in the conference rooms and whatnot with all the trolls and a lot of some of the Raider fans that are in there voicing their opinion. But I can tell you this, we are in trouble. I am extremely depressed about how this football team plays. I'm extremely depressed on how the front office has done themselves into making this team what it is right now. We are so far away from seeing any type of playoff berth. I believe now, with last week's loss, we were at 6.8%. 6.8% chance to make the playoffs, and I guarantee it's even lower than that now. So, don't expect to make the playoffs, but it's also like I said before, the wind might be out of our sails, but the only thing that we can do, is break out the oars and start rowing. And it's going to be a long, hard road. This is a long, hard road that we are taking because we are basically rebuilding. We're stripping the team down to almost nothing. Heard right before the game happened today that the Raiders were shopping Amari Cooper and also Carl Joseph. So it looks exactly like what we have been calling ever since the Mac trade, that this is a Gruden purge. This roster is going to look completely different by next season. Guarantee it. And it's going to be all a bunch of Gruden guys. So that's the state of the Raiders as of where we're at right now. And I want to go more in depth next week, which is the bye week, which I've got my buddy coming over, the co-host that used to be the co-host over here for the Raider Critique. And he's going to come over here and he's going to talk with me about it. And we're going to put a video out about the state of the Raiders as an organization from a fan's perspective. And I'm sure that's why a lot of you come here, because a lot of you are in disbelief just like me. A lot of you are scratching your heads wondering what this team is doing. Well, if you want a common sense styled speculation on the situation, you'll be here next week. Anyway, man, this is the Raider Critique, man. I'm signing out of here, and I'll see you guys next week.